Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this second video is an extension off the first part of facial proportioning that you guys did last week. This is about drawing the face in more three-dimension. And so what I like to do when I'm sketching out the idea of a human portrait from three-dimension is to develop a frontal portrait, a side or profile portrait, and a three-quarter portrait. And this is going to help students understand the three-dimensionality of what they're trying to draw. So what I do is I folded my paper in half and I sketched out a line here. And I'm going to use this to line my ideas up. I'm going to attempt to draw upside down. I typically do pretty well with this. So what I'm going to do is add in the middle a circle like this for my frontal. My symmetry line should exist, roughly halfway in between the sides here. What I'm going to do then is start to add a little bit more to the bottom, so it's an upside down egg shape. So very similar to what you guys saw in the video before. Roughly about halfway between the top of the head and the bottom of the chin, I'm going to drop in an eye line. About halfway between the bottom of the chin and where that eye and kind of eyebrow line are going to be, I'm going to go ahead and drop in about a nose line in here and a mouth line about here. So those are roughly half. And I keep that symmetry line going all the way down. Again, I'm going to try to draw upside down here so you have a better view. But there's typically about an eye's width in between the eyes, and so I'll measure one eye, sketch it out in the middle sometimes, and then I'll use that to help me proportion the eyes out accordingly. And again, I'm just kind of drawing a generic face here because I really want to expand more on my ideas for the three-quarter and the frontal, rather profile. And then what I usually do is I pair this project, this drawing project, with a sculpture project so the kids really understand the development of the facial proportioning in 2D and then translated to 3D. So that's going to be my next demo. I'm going to kind of add like a little hairline in here. And then the ears typically kind of line up with the nose and the brow area. So I'm going to kind of sketch those in here. I might modify my contour a little bit just to make it look more specifically like something. And then at this point I'd go ahead and erase out all my other lines, but what I'm going to demonstrate now is the profile. So if this person's looking straight at you, things change just a little bit in the profile. We're going to do the same thing with the circle here. If you feel like you need to slow this video down and catch up, that's fine. Not a bad idea. And so I'm going to have him looking, I think, this way. And so what I need to do now is determine, again, my center. And then, it's like my circle's not quite right, so I'm going to add just a little bit more to the top. Go with that. That looks better. Typically what I do is I will develop kind of a skull-type shape as it goes to the side like this. And it helps me to get a frame of reference like for where the neck would be. And then I'm going to look at this chin line here versus the top of the head. I'm going to sketch out a rough half. It's a little high, that might be a brow line. That looks better. And then halfway between this area and this area, I'll kind of drop in a little spot for the nose and a little spot for the mouth. And so now the profile really is all about the contour. And so usually what I do is I bump out this area here for the brow line. I bring it back in where the eyes are going to go, and then I kick the nose out quite a bit. Noses are easiest to draw in profile because you can really only have to describe like half of it. So then what I like to do is add the lips on there as well. And I'll kind of base all of this contour here off of the same principles that we did here, only again we're looking at the side. So we know the eyes should probably sit back in here. One thing from that video that you guys watched last time is that we know how wide the mouth should be based upon how far apart the eyes are. And so we'll sketch a line down, base that off the eyes. We know that's how wide the mouth should be. So what I like to do is I like to sketch out the eye as it would look to the side, which is not going to be really an oval at all. It's more like a triangular shape. And I know that the middle of that should roughly be where the edge of my mouth would go here. And then, just like before, sketching where our nose and our eyebrow exist, we know that we can put the ear in this location. I don't know if it's going to look any good as I'm sketching it backwards. We'll see what happens, but or upside down rather. That's not too bad, I guess. And then I typically will bring the jawline up in here. So practicing that can help the students understand what the side of the face should look like in the front. And then again, you know, we'll add some hair up in here. I just kind of like to sketch it out as though we could see through it so that we kind of know these proportional elements. Now the most difficult part is going to be the 3/4. And this is where you have one eye looking at you and one maybe less squarely centered on you. And 3/4 is probably the most common that you're going to see in artwork and pictures. And it's because the human face is actually, by and large, asymmetrical. I mean, mostly symmetrical, but there are a lot of little imperfections in here. Nobody's perfectly symmetrical, and this 3/4 view kind of helps to hide that. So I start with a circle once again. I'm going to sketch in my symmetry line, but since this person's moving their head a little bit, I'm going to have them kind of looking this way a little bit. It's not going to be a straight line here. Here the symmetry line was actually this line right in here. But our symmetry line should wrap around. And you notice I'm kind of using sketchy lines here just because I want to have a loose open hand as I'm sketching. It's going to wrap around. I try to tell my kids to imagine like the longitude lines on a globe and how they're going to change when the globe starts to turn. So that helps show that dimensionality. We'll use this line right here kind of for our eye line. And what's important to note is that we need to drop from here pretty much straight down. That way they're looking away and we don't wrap the features around the face down here. So what I'll do is I'll sketch in a little area up in here where I kind of think that the hairline should start, and then I'm going to take that same dimension here and I'm going to start on the brow line, create another mark here. It's going to help me determine where my nose will go, and then I'm going to drop this down here, and that's going to help me determine probably where my chin should go. And so at this point I'll start to look over here on this side. This is very advanced, I know that. It can be difficult, so I don't expect your drawing's amazing, but it's a good way to take something graphic like drawing and start to develop ideas for dimensionality. So anytime we can connect that for the kids, it's very helpful. So at this point, I think it's probably beneficial to lose some of these extra lines because it does get a little bit confusing. And so I'll erase some of this stuff off. And so now I've got this person sort of, you know, looking in this direction, but they'll have one of these eyes kind of fixated on the viewer. So what we do now is we kind of roughly figure out where this eye should go. And this eye should be just maybe a little bit smaller because of foreshortening, it's kind of looking away. We know that the nose should exist roughly right here because we sketched it out before, and again I'm going pretty fast, so if you need to slow down, that's fine. And then the 3/4 nose is pretty difficult to draw because you're going to see, and again it's important maybe to like erase some of this stuff, you're going to see part of one of the nostrils most likely like this. You're going to have the ball of the nose like in this area, and usually what I do is I just kind of bring that around to describe the tip of the nose, and then maybe a little bit of this one over here. Get some eyebrows up in there. Our ear should again exist, you know, roughly in between here, so I like to use this little carved out section that I kind of created over here when I was doing the jawline to help me figure out where the ear should go. And again, I can make adjustments later. It's kind of looking weird upside down right now, so I don't know, I might change it if I flip it around. So since this is the bottom of our chin, we want to figure out about halfway kind of where the mouth line would go. And so I'm going to plot that down just again like this, so I know how far to take it. And I've been drawing portraits for a long time again, so like, you know, don't feel overwhelmed if you can't keep up, that's fine. And a rough sketch is really all we need at this point. Okay, So now we see that we've got our frontal, our profile, and our 3/4, and it's time to maybe customize these a little bit. The next step is to really practice these and think about how you want to sculpt these, because I'm going to redraw all of these, demonstrate how to sculpt these in 3 dimensions, and then that's really the culmination of the project. So I think we're done with this one. So once you've gotten these sketched out, we're good to go. Think about how you want it to look in 3 dimensions. I tell the kids to go crazy with it. You know, if they want to add like extra eyes in the middle of the head or horns or whatever, they can. Make it fun for them, make it exciting, because the main academic thing that they're learning here is the fractional proportions that happen when we're drawing the human face.